So far we have discussed about Universe Designer, Web Intelligence, and Crystal Reports. So let's discuss about Open Document URL. So what exactly an Open Doc URL means. So as per the architecture, whenever you publish any report into this object's enterprise, to store the report in a specific folder of your business objects enterprise machine. So let's see in which folder it's going to be stored and what is the ID it's going to generate for each and every report that you publish. So here, for example, this is a webi report. So in order to see where it is stored on the business object server machine, go to the properties. So this is the location. First thing, repository server, and it's going to generate an ID for the document, and the ID of that document is, this is the unique ID to find out this document. The same ID in an encrypted format, which we call it as UID. And the location where it stores is input folder of your business object server installation directory machine. So this is the server machine where I have business objects installed. And if you go to program files, business objects, inside this business objects enterprise 12.0, and this is the file store location. Inside that file store folder you have input and output. So input folder is the one in which it stores all the published objects in your business objects enterprise. So here you have a subfolders and open a specific folder with the ID, and inside that you have this. So this is the complete path in your input directory of a specific report that you have selected, which is formatted report for drill. So each and every report we call as an object in business objects enterprise, and as soon as you publish it, it's going to generate a unique ID for that object to identify that object in your business objects enterprise through InfoView. So now this ID is very important, wherein we use this ID to point to our specific report which we want to open. So let's say, for example, in order to open this report, I have logged into my InfoView and I have navigated through multiple folders, and I have selected a specific folder, and inside this folder I have chosen this report. So when you double click on this report, it opens the output. That's how it works. But customer wants, if I click on a link, it directly needs to open a specific report what he wants. So that is an open doc URL, wherein we generate one URL. If the customer clicks on that URL, it opens the target report directly. So in order to open the target report, we need to know what is the ID of that report. So in Crystal Reports, so till XIR2 version, we need to have wherein we have a documentation for open URL. So based on that, we migrate on open doc URL. So if you misspell a single letter, it's not going to work. OpenDoc URL is case sensitive, and if you miss a specific letter, you're not going to get the target report. Is my voice breaking? Excuse me. Let me check. Okay. So now let's see, how do we generate an OpenDoc URL in Crystal Reports? For example, so here I'm going to insert one text field. I'll name this as a link, and right click on this, go to format text. So we have seen all the tabs, but we left with hyperlink. So here hyperlink tab gives you an option to generate different types of URL in Crystal Reports. So one of them is an email address. For example, if you have a field which gives you an email information, for example, in this report you have a field email. So let me place it in detail section. Let's see. Excuse me. So now see the preview. So here I have all the email IDs of a specific customer. Now if you want to send an email to the specific customer in Crystal Reports, you can directly click on a specific email ID, wherein it directly opens an Outlook with that email ID added into to address. So right click on this, go to format field, go to hyperlink, select an email ID. So as soon as you select an email ID, so here rather selecting as an email ID, the current field itself consists of email IDs. So you can select current email field value and click on OK. And now if you click on a specific email ID, it directly opens that email ID in an Outlook. So I don't have an Outlook installed here, it's opening Google account. But if you have an Outlook installed on your machine, if you click on that email ID, it directly opens an Outlook and you'll be able to see this email address, whatever the ID that you clicked on, it's going to open and it's going to add it into to address of your Outlook. So that is how we can make a hyperlink, and apart from that, you can also link it to a file on your machine, which means select a file and click on browse and browse through your machine, and these are all the files that it supports. You can select all files and select any file that you want. And as soon as you click on that link, it directly opens the target file on your machine. So like that, you can also create a link for a file on your Crystal Reports. So apart from these three, you can also use a website on the internet. Let's say suppose you have any hyperlink that you want to generate which connects to a website in the internet, then you can type that URL, or if you want to conditionally get the URL, click on X+2 and write your condition. So these are all different hyperlinks that you can create on your Crystal Reports, and here under website on the internet you have a new button called Create Enterprise Hyperlink. This is OpenDoc URL. Now click on Create Enterprise Hyperlink. Now as soon as you click, so here you get a browse button. Click on browse And if you have already logged into your enterprise, it doesn't prompt you to enter user ID password. But if you're first time logging in, you need to enter the credentials. Now, as soon as you log in, you'll be able to see the content of your business objects enterprise. Now, what is your target report that you want to point? Under report samples, feature or demonstration, I'll select a specific report, calculated member, for example, and click on open. So as soon as you select that calculated member, it's going to use the CUID, which is an encrypted format of that object ID, as a reference of a document ID, and the document name is calculated member crosstab chart report. Now, so this is a hyperlink that you have generated for the target report, which is stored in your business objects enterprise. Now, when you click on that hyperlink, where do you want to open it? In the current window, for example, this is Crystal Report Designer. It doesn't open in a current window, but obviously this report on which I am generating a hyperlink, if I am going to publish into my info view, so the main parent report on which I am clicking on a link will be in a browser. So in that scenario, if you select a current window, the current report will be replaced with the target report. If I select new window, so current window will be as it is, and if you click on that hyperlink, the target report will open in a separate window. Now, other than that, you also have some other options. While opening my target report, in what format that I want my target report? Is that HTML, PDF, Excel, Word? So which means while viewing the target report, you can view it by directly exporting it to a third-party format. So that I am mentioning it as a PDF. I want my target report in a PDF format. Now refresh and open. Yes, I want to refresh while opening my target report. And apart from this, you can also point to the instances of that report. For example, so with these options, whenever a customer clicks on a hyperlink, it starts refreshing your target report. But if your target report is taking much time to refresh, what you can do is here, you can point to a specific instance which is already refreshed instance stored on your business objects enterprise. So those instances that you get it by scheduling the report. So you can point to a saved instance of a report wherein it's not going to refresh the report on demand. So but here I want my report to be refreshed now, and I want the current data, whatever that I have in the backend database. So these are all the options that I have chosen. And now the last option what you have is include server name in URL. So remember, you need to check this option if you are trying to use the OpenDoc URL outside your business objects info view. If you are clicking this hyperlink after logging into your info view in one of the report through browser, then this URL is not, the server name is not required. But if you are trying to open a report outside your BO application, so I am actually outside my BO application, I am on my Crystal reports, not into info view, then it requires fully qualified name. Then only you will be able to open the target report. So that's the reason I need to include server name in the URL. Now with all these options, click on OK. Now it has generated one OpenDoc URL automatically based on our options, whatever that I've selected, and this is the OpenDoc URL. So now here I need to just change the server name. Just the port number is 8080, and anything else, if you want to write any formulas and do the changes, you can manually edit this URL. So now I'm going to save and close this and click on OK. Now I have successfully created one hyperlink here, and as soon as you mouse over on that, if it is a hyperlink, you'll get the hand symbol like that. and I'm going to click on that link. Let's see what happens. I've just clicked on that link. It's opening the target report, and I have selected the target report in the form of PDF. See? I'm able to see my target report in a PDF format. Not only Crystal, you can open Excel sheets reports, you can open Web Intelligence, any report. Open document is independent of reporting tool. Open document is used to open any type of an object stored in your business objects enterprise directly, and you can also choose while opening the target report in what format that you want. So this type of URLs that we use in real time to integrate with third-party applications like Microsoft SharePoint, .NET or Java application, wherein they just add a link. The actual report is available at business objects enterprise level by using an OpenDoc URL. Excuse me. Okay. So by using an OpenDoc URL, so they'll just click on that link and they can directly open the report which is present in your business objects enterprise. So as of now, I've used the URL from outside my business objects enterprise, which is from Crystal Report Designer, and when I click on that, you should be authenticated, but it didn't authenticate. It directly opened the target report. The reason is you've already opened an info view and the session is open. That's the reason it didn't prompt you to enter user ID and password. But if I close all the sessions of my business objects enterprise, now if you click on the link, so before it opens the target report, you need to pass through the gateway, which is user ID and password that you need to provide. See here, it's asking you to provide user ID and password. Provide it, and as soon as you click on log on, it directly opens the target report. No need to navigate and all those things. So in this manner, OpenDoc URL is very useful to open any target report which is present in your business objects enterprise. So it might be a webi report, SQ report, Crystal, Excel sheets, anything. And you can choose any format that you want. Apart from that, you can also make this OpenDoc URL more interactive, something like especially when you want to deal with drill down reports. So drill down report is actually, it's in a single report which is going to replace the specific object with the other object. But wherein you have a requirement in such a manner, when I drill down a specific value, it should open a target report which is completely a different format and completely a different database connectivity. In that scenario, you can make use of this OpenDoc URL, generate more than one report with different connections and different formats, link them by using OpenDoc URL. So let's say here I have an example. So this is a target report which is detailed sales revenue. Whenever I refresh the report, it has a specific parameter, a country value that I need to provide, and as soon as I select a specific country, it gives you a specific country related information in your report, detailed information. Now, so let's say, how can I pass that parameter information using OpenDoc URL? So in this crystal reports, so I'll just add one more field, that is country. What is that? Country. And before I add a country, country is going to repeat. So I'm gonna insert a group by on country. Insert group on country. Okay, so these are all countries that I have, and I want to make a hyperlink on top of this country field itself. So right click, go to format field, go to hyperlink, select a website on the internet. Now click on create enterprise hyperlink, browse for that target report. Under training folder, I have a target report which is detailed sales revenue, and click on open. Now select where do you want this output in a new window, output format in the form of PDF, refresh and open as yes, and you have one parameter called country. So if you select prompt at runtime, when you click on a hyperlink, it's going to show you that prompt at runtime, and you need to choose it and you need to get it. But I don't want the prompt at runtime, but wherein on which country that I click on, same country that I want to pass it to my target report. So in order to pass in that manner, so here you have an option, select an object, and you will be able to see all the objects, what are all that you have in your local report. And I'm pointing to my country object, so that when I click on Argentina, it shows Argentina related information. If I click on Australia, it shows Australia related information in my target report. Now since you're using this URL outside your business objects enterprise, you need to include this server name. Now click on OK. Now click on OK. Now let's see what happens if I click on Australia. Oops. Okay, I have some problem with that URL. I just need to edit that URL. Format field, hyperlink. It's big SAP. The port number is 8080. So in real time, you need not edit it, but there is some configuration issue. That's why it's not generating the server name properly. So now I'm going to click on Australia. First time you click, so that's why I need to log in. You got Australia detailed information. Now I'm going to click on another country, for example, Bermuda. Shows Bermuda information. So like that, you can also make more interactive between the summary report and detailed report by using an OpenDoc URL, wherein if you have in the target report some parameters, at runtime you can pass those values to those target report, and you'll be able to see the related information in the target report. So here also you're drilling down. So when you click on a specific country, it shows detail level information of that specific country. So that is about OpenDoc URL. The same URL you can also generate and use it in Web Intelligence, Excelsius as well. Open document URL is not specific to a reporting tool, remember. Any questions? No questions? So here when you are trying to generate any URL, so you need to include this server name based on your Open Document URL usage. If you are using, so whatever the report on which you are generating an OpenDoc URL, if you are publishing that report as well into your business objects enterprise, then you need not use this include server name URL. Because in order to open this report, you need to log into InfoView. In that scenario, you need not include fully qualified name. Both summary and detailed reports are going to present in your business objects enterprise, and you can open those reports through InfoView. But if you are trying to open a summary report in a separate application, the hyperlink where you have is other than business objects enterprise, then make sure that you include the server name URL with the port number, which is fully qualified name. So the best practice is, if you have both in a single server machine, both the reports, then not to include this server name and URL. So in the OpenDoc URL, don't include your server name. The reason is, when we move the report from dev environment to production environment, still this OpenDoc URL points to the dev environment, because the server name, whatever that you have included, is dev related server information. So you need to manually change those OpenDoc URLs after migrating the content from dev to production. So rather doing that, if you don't include URL name, it automatically takes localhost. So whatever the server, it takes that as a server name and it opens the report. So before you generate this OpenDoc URL, you should know the purpose. Based on that, you need to decide whether you need to include the URL or not required. Any questions on this OpenDoc URL? No questions? Clear? Thank you. So let me give you the material related to this OpenDoc URL. So you have each and every parameter, whatever that we use in OpenDoc URL is defined in it, in the documentation. But now you need not worry about the syntax. The tool itself generating an OpenDoc URL based on our selection. So obviously there won't be any misspell while generating the OpenDoc URL. But if you want to write it manually, then you need a documentation on that, which is case sensitive, and you should not even miss a single letter while generating that OpenDoc URL. If so, it's not going to work. Let me give you the material for that. So this is the link for OpenDocument documentation. You can go through it. They have explained each and every scenario on each and every parameter. And you can also generate this OpenDocument in a different format for crystal reports especially. So that's all about OpenDocument URL, and let me close this report. And let's discuss about context operators, what we have in Web Intelligence reporting tool. So I'm going to choose some objects year, quarter, city, category, sales revenue. Drag and drop this. Run the query. Now I'm gonna delete these two columns on my report. Okay. So this is my report that consists of year, quarter, sales revenue. Okay. Now my requirement is, oops, sorry. How about now? Okay. So here I have selected these objects from my eFashion universe and I have generated a report, and it shows yearly, quarter-wise sales revenue, and I have removed the columns city and category. Okay. Now my requirement is, I want to generate a new column. Right click, insert to the right, and in this column I want yearly sales revenue. Can I get it? What is the sales revenue that it is showing here? Yearly, a specific quarter-wise sales revenue, right? But in this new column, I want yearly sales revenue. So before doing that, let me apply a break on here. Now, let me show you the sum for each and every year. This yearly sales revenue, I want it at each and every row level. How can I get it? Can anyone answer? Do you want me to copy this and paste it here? Let's see. Whatever that you have, sum, copy it, paste it, enter. What happened? It's showing the same value. It's not showing 8,000. So 8095814. So how can I get yearly sales revenue in that column? And the reason why I want this at each and every row level, the same yearly sales revenue is, let's say my requirement is to calculate the percentage distribution of each and every quarter. In order to calculate percentage distribution of each and every quarter, I need to divide each and every quarterly sales revenue with a complete year sales revenue, right? So that's why I want this at each and every row level. How can I get it? So here, context operators comes into the picture. I'm not talking about context of Universe Designer. Here we have context operators in Web Intelligence. So how exactly a Web report works? As I said, whenever you create a block in your Web Intelligence report, for example, for this block, the query what it's going to generate is select year, comma, quarter, comma, sum of revenue from microcube group by year, comma, quarter. This is the query for this block. Now, what is the default context of your sales revenue? The default context, so based on which context the sales revenue value is shown? Year and quarter. The default context that is available in any measure in a block is all the dimensions that you have included along with that measure. So here the default context for the sales revenue field is year and quarter. In order to get yearly sales revenue, whenever you try to add again a new field sales revenue, you will get the same thing. because again the default context for this measure is these two dimensions. So you need to write a function in such a manner it removes the default context. So that function what you have here is a context operators. So one of them is for all. So for all is used. I'm going to write a formula in this manner. Sales revenue for all quarter. Now click on enter. Now it shows the value. So what does for all is going to do here? For all is going to remove a dimension from the default context. Now what is the default context that you have in sales revenue? Year and quarter. Using for all, what I did, I removed quarter. Now a sales revenue is getting calculated based on year. So for all is going to remove dimensions from the default context. What are all the default context dimensions that you have? Year and quarter. When I remove quarter, it's calculating based on year. Let's say if I also remove year, then what happens? I'll get grand total, right? Let's see. Put semicolon and place year as well and click on enter. Now what happens? It's showing grand total. Let's see if it matches with grand total. This is my grand total. Because there is no context in your sales revenue which is going to give you grand total. So that is the use of for all, which is going to remove a dimension from the default context. Clear? Any questions? No questions? Okay. So now I'm going to create another block, year, quarter, city and sales revenue. Drag and drop it here. So this is the block which is showing year, quarter, city and sales revenue. I'm going to apply a break on year. And I'm going to apply a break on quarter. Now what I want is, in each year and quarter, a city which has maximum sales revenue is what I want. So here in this, go to summary, select max. This is the value, right? Now in my block I need a new column. So here I have generated for all column by using a function wherein I am able to get yearly sales revenue. And if you want a percentage, insert a new column on the right. And what I'll do is, first of all, I want sales revenue, and copy this formula, whatever that you have written. Go here, put divided by that formula. I'm going to use the phrases. Enter. So this is the percentage distribution. So in order to convert this into a percentage, right click, go to format number and select the percentage format here. Click on OK. This gives you a percentage distribution of each and every quarter by dividing sales revenue divided by a context operator function formula, whatever that you have written. So here I have not stored this formula as a variable. I have just typed this formula at runtime. If this formula you want to reuse it every time, you can store it as a variable. For example, see here, select that fx and click on create variable. It directly copies whatever that you have written there, and it's going to generate a new object. I'm going to name this as yearly sales. Click on OK. Now you can reuse it everywhere, wherever that you want, in this block only. The reason is, if you have any other block that consists of different dimensions, you're just removing quarter dimension from the default context. But in another block you might have different context, quarter, month, category and all those things. But by simply removing your quarter, you're not going to get the correct result set. Okay? And now another requirement is, I want this maximum sales revenue for each city in that specific year and quarter. But I don't want to include city object in this block. In this block, I don't want to include city object, but I want maximum sales revenue of a year and quarter, including city indirectly. Don't want to show city, but in my calculation I want to include city. Which means, along with the default context, I also want to include an additional context at runtime, which is city. So for that, we need to use a function called for each. So what is the use of this for each? Let's see. I want max of sales revenue for each city. Enter. See now, for this city, what is the maximum sales revenue? For in year 2001 and quarter 1, 555,983. Correct? Correct. And how about quarter 2? 479,962. Correct? Correct. So the use of for each operator is, unlike for all, for each is going to include an additional dimension to the default context. What is the default context that you have in your block? Year and quarter. I've also included city dimension in that context. Even then, I don't have a city dimension included in my block. While calculating, I can make use of that. That is the use of for each, which is going to add an additional context to the default context, is for each operator. Clear? So just to show you what exactly it is calculating, that's why I've generated another block to explain what value that it is showing. Clear about this for each and for all. For all is going to remove a dimension from the default context. For each is going to include dimension to the default context. Any questions? This is very important. Please let me know if you don't understand. Without this, you cannot do any type of a calculation that you want for financial reports. You should know these operators. Deviate from the default automatic calculation, what it does in your web intelligence, you have to use this context operators. Any questions? Now? Okay. So I have one more, that is in. Another context operator apart from this for all and for each is in operator. So what is this in operator? Unlike for all and for each, in operator is going to include context from scratch. It's going to include the context from scratch. For example, sales revenue in, open the braces and close the braces, in here. Click on enter. So it does the same thing what you did in for all. Now Which one do you prefer while doing calculations? Can anyone answer? Are you going to use for all or are you going to use in? You have two ways to get yearly sales revenue at each and every row level. Which one do you prefer? Why? Why you prefer in? So why do you prefer in? Is there any specific reason? That is true. So the sum is calculated once and reused again and again in any block. Even this sum is also you have calculated and you can reuse it. But the problem with for all is if you include any new dimension into this block in future, it's going to change the value of for all, because in this for all you are just removing quarter from the default dimension. So as of now, once you remove quarter from the default context, you just left with year. It's going to calculate yearly sales revenue. But what if you have added or if you are going to change this block by including city object? You are going to remove only quarter. Now your sales revenue is getting calculated with year and city, right? Which is going to affect your calculation when you use for all. But whereas in is not dependent on what are all the dimensions that you have included, because it starts including the dimensions into your context from scratch. You have just included year. Never matter what dimensions that you have in that block, it's not going to affect the result set of your in operator. Let's see how it changes if I include city in this block. Sales for all column is going to change, but in column is not going to change. The values are same. See, for all value got changed, but in still shows the same. So it depends upon your requirement. If you are doing any calculation, go for in, because it starts including context from the scratch, which is not going to depend on what are all the objects that you have. But for all is going to remove from the default context which are already included in your block. Here, any questions? So these three operators are known as context operators in Web Intelligence reporting tool, which is used to do the calculations which are going to deviate from the default calculation based on a projection value what you did in Universe Designer level. By default, if you drag dimensions and the measure, it's going to calculate that measure value based on those dimensions. But if you come across with any calculations that you need to do it at every report level, then you have to make use of this for all, for each and in operators based on your requirement. And again, inside in, you have two more sub levels, in report and in block. Let's see, in break. So let's see what does it mean. So insert new column to write. So you have in break. So this in break is useful only when you applied a break on your block. So I have actually applied a break on here. So now if you select sales revenue and in break, now what happens? It's going to calculate sales revenue based on a break on which you applied. So obviously a break on which I applied is on year, so it becomes sales revenue in year and it calculates the same value. But in break is something looking at on which field that you applied a break, remember. So that is about in break. And you have one more, which is in report. So in report is used, it's going to calculate accordingly. So it's, if you have more than one break, see here, you have in year, and also you can include quarter, right? Semicolon quarter, which is going to show you quarterly sales revenue. Same thing what happens for your in break. If you have two dimensions applied on break, it's going to include year and quarter, and it shows quarterly sales revenue. Okay. So that is about in break, and in report is for a complete report which is going to give you grand total. So sales revenue in report. Now this is going to give you grand total. But the reason why we use in report is there are some scenarios wherein we use report level filters. So report level filters is which is going to specific to this specific report tab. You can have multiple tabs, right? So for this specific tab, if you want grand total based on the filter conditions, whatever that you applied, it's going to get that grand total in that report for calculation purpose. So these are all context operators for each in again subdivided into two, in break and in report. This is the use of context operators and how we use it in web intelligence for calculation purpose. So I've already provided you the documentation for that. So functions in web intelligence advanced document. So you can go through it if you have any queries on that. So any questions? No questions? Here. So that is about context operators in web intelligence. So we are done with Universe Designer, Webi Reporting Tool, and Crystal Reports. Now in the next class, we'll discuss about Excel sheets dashboards from tomorrow. Okay? So thank you so much, and we'll discuss tomorrow on Excel sheets then. If you have any questions, just send me an email. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The organizer has